Hey folks, so my conversation about stress and all that stuff, it ran a little bit longer and I decided to cut this episode. I'm just gonna give a little bit of recap on what we talked about during the last episode so that you can kind of jump in and know what the conversation is gonna be about. We were talking, about what kind of things that we could talk about today, and I think the topics that sort of stuck out to us were, life balance, self-care, and managing stress. So I don't want to call this the stressful episode, but it is kind of like the stress episode.
If you're stressed out about all the work you have to do, you have to make a plan. It's still going to be there when you come back from Fortnite.
Too.
It's still going to be
I feel like
right.
a lot of our students have anxiety, and I feel like that really stems from not being able to manage your workload because you're like, oh, I'm too anxious to do my work, but then your grades go down, and then you get phone calls home, you get parent meetings, and then you're more stressed, and then you get more anxious about the stress, and it's a really bad cycle, and you have to break the cycle, honestly.
Yeah, and I think cycle is a good word. And if you're saying like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm anxious, and there's a reason for your anxiety, then you need to address the reason. If you're anxious because you have some public speaking event coming up and you don't feel comfortable, then you need to practice and you need to ask for help. If you're anxious because you have a big essay due, same thing, you need to ask for help. You need to do the organizer, you need to use all the resources that your teacher is giving you. If you're anxious without a reason, without like a pinpoint, a cause, then you need to probably go see a doctor. And I know a lot of the households we grew up in are not super anxiety friendly. Like they don't see mental health. Our parents, like speaking just about mine and Judy's, like they're from a generation of people who don't really believe in mental health. Like you can't see it, you don't look sick, so you're not sick, get over it. Or, my life was harder than your life. What are you so anxious about? And I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was like fresh out of college. Like we were student teaching still, I guess. So almost out of college. Would be like 21. And
Mm.
um, I had no idea what was happening to my body. Like I had a, the best student teaching placement, and I loved my kids. I loved my cooperating teacher. I had all my great friends at school, like Judy, and I had a boyfriend. I was happy, I thought. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I would start shaking and sweating, and I got like nauseous. And I'm like, what's happening to my body? Is there an earthquake? And then it kept happening and happening and happening. And I felt happy. I felt like my life was in order, and my body just disagreed. So there comes a point where maybe you do have to go see a doctor and you have to talk to somebody, and maybe you do need medicine. You could be doing everything else right, and sometimes you still need medicine, and that's just between you and your doctor. There's really like a time where you have to call in for help, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just your brain. It needs something. It's not producing enough of one chemical. Maybe there's too much of a chemical, and it's like if you have a cavity in your tooth, you go to the dentist and they fix it. It's the same thing, and I feel like we really need to get rid of this stigma, this kind of bad vibe around, oh, well, you have to go to a therapist. Like, okay, yeah, so do you. We all do.
I've been going to therapy for like a year now, and I don't take anxiety medication and anymore, and I haven't had an anxiety attack in like 3 years. And I've been going to therapy for about a year now because I initially went because of like life work balance, and I felt overwhelmed with how do I be a good teacher and a good sister and a good daughter and a good girlfriend and a good friend and a good this and that and this and that, and like and have time for myself. And I see you see everybody doing it, and you're like, how's everybody doing it? And the truth is like they're not, or they're pretending to do it.
Oh my God, no.
Or like they're doing it and then they close the door and they take off their work pants and they put on sweatpants and they go have a freak attack on the couch. So it's just like after a year in therapy, I can just say like for the most part, you know your life best. You can kind of tell right from wrong, and it's just like they say the people go to therapy before the other people in their lives who don't go to therapy. So it's like if you're going to go to therapy and get all these um, tools and skills and coping mechanisms, and the rest of the people in your life don't have it, there's a point where sometimes you have to cut off negative friends who aren't helpful and who aren't supportive and who aren't healthy for you, or you have to set boundaries with people in your life who are trying to use you and take advantage of you or be disrespectful to you. And maybe that's a source of your anxiety. I think we've talked a lot about like schoolwork being a source of your anxiety, but like we also understand that that's not your only issue all day. Like school is not your the first thing on your mind all the time. We just think if you manage school well, that will be one less thing to worry about. It will make your life easier in some ways. So yeah, you still have to go home and you have your home problems and your friend problems and your boyfriend girlfriend problems. But if you knock school out of the way, if you do all the stuff you got to do, then that'll be one less thing to stress about.
Mm.
So, what are some things that you do that you would consider self care that you would recommend?
I exercise because for me, that's how I manage stress. I have this really clear memory of my first year of teaching. I had a student who he was a good kid, but he did not like being in school and he didn't want to do work. And he had some home issues that uh, he didn't really know how to deal with emotionally. So sometimes he would kind of lash out at people. And so I remember once I asked him a question, and I guess he was not in a good mood that day, but he didn't like the way that I asked it. And he said, I don't fucking know. Why don't you go ask somebody else? And I was like, oh. And in that moment, as a first year teacher, I didn't have the experience or the confidence to be able to say, okay, you're going to sit in the corner over there and I'm going to teach everybody else. And I'll talk to you later. I felt so like upset and
Like
humiliated.
personally attacked.
Yeah, and angry because I thought I had a good relationship with this kid and it really felt like it came out of nowhere. And so I went home and I was sitting there feeling really angry and upset. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for a run. And I think that's really where I started to realize that for me, exercise is a really good way to just, first of all, no one's going to talk to me for those 30, 40 minutes. I got my earphones in, don't talk to me. And also, instead of being angry and lashing out at my family and my friends, I could just kind of work out the stress physically. And then later on, I was ready to have a conversation about it with people in a more, relaxed way. And for me also it's sleep. I need to sleep. If I don't sleep, my personality changes. It's like Jekyll and Hyde, except
Yeah.
it's always Jekyll, always. There's never a Hyde.
And I think what you're talking about gets back to your earlier points about science too. Like if you're not eating, you're not drinking water, you're not sleeping, and you're not exercising. Those are all things that can negatively affect you. So if you're hydrating and you're eating healthy foods, fruits and veggies, whole foods, fresh foods, you're exercising, you're sending positive brain waves out. And it's not some like hippy dippy stuff that I'm into. It's like actually science based. So doing those things, listening to some good music, talking about it with your friends, a trusted adult, someone who's like gonna ground you, not your crazy friend who's gonna just encourage you to do terrible things, okay?
Yeah,
But
no, no.
someone that's gonna guide you a little bit.
Yeah.
Then those are all things that can help you. So
So I think kind of if we had to do a almost a spark note summary of what we've talked about, because I know we just talked about attention spans. I feel like the main points are, if you can fix whatever's stressing you out, address it ASAP. Don't push it to the side. Um, and if you need help, ask for help because there's nothing wrong with asking for help. And I guess the third thing is nobody has their life together. We both have our master's degrees. We are professionals, highly qualified, and neither of us have it together. It's a matter of what was the thing our advisor used to say in college, you fake it till you make it.
yeah, and a lot of those silly mantras are very true. Like there's some truth to that. That's why people say it. And you might have achieved balance, like, oh, I went to therapy for a year, now I'm balanced. Boop. But it's something that's always going to be ongoing. Like there's going to be a stressor in your life and it's going to knock you off balance. Or there's
Mm,
going to be times in your life where you're hitting your stride and everything feels like it's going the way it should. And that's the time where you really set your routines and you make yourself a stronger person. So when the crazy things do come back around, like a freaking coronavirus or a death in the family or a breakup or some other consistent inconsistency like that, then you're ready for it and you're doing the best you can to cope with it.
hmm And that connects really well back to this idea of self-care. You need to take care of yourself, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically, so that you feel ready to deal with whatever life is going to throw your way. If you're constantly hungry and you're dehydrated, that can actually contribute to anxiety attacks. If you are not getting enough sleep, that definitely is going to mess up your brain because it's a machine. It needs to power down for a little bit and rest. So I feel like this is stuff that we kind of learned along the way as we were through college, because that was a lot of stuff that we had to do in college, but also just now that we've had a career for a few years, like we've kind of learned from mistakes. Like you can't say, "Oh, I'm just gonna power through and then I'll sleep tomorrow." You can't. Your body's just not gonna work with you.
Yeah, and I think or like organization looks different for everyone. Like you might not be the kind of person who says, I'm going to go running Monday and yoga on Tuesday and kickboxing Wednesday. You might just get home and say like, how do I feel today? But I do think it's good to at least have like a list of go-to strategies and then consult them when you're in a bad mood. Like
Ooh.
so you're ready, not when you're caught off guard. And if you feel yourself getting upset, not even anxiety, like because sometimes anxiety manifests itself in different ways, like your student who cursed you out. Like if you feel yourself getting angry, you want to catch yourself when you're on like a 2 or a 3, not a 7 or 8 where it's harder to get yourself back. So if you know you're getting frustrated, you can ask your teacher, oh, Miss Choi, can I go for a walk? Miss Choi, can I go to the bathroom? Can I get a drink of water? Can I go call my mom in the hallway? Can I text my friend? The answer 9 out of 10 times is going to be, yeah, of course, go take care of what you got to do. If you avoid it and you stuff it down and you push it down, and then your teacher's like, take your headphones out, put your phone away, why are you texting in class? That's where that negativity comes out, and that's where everybody blows up. And then you send a teacher home thinking about, why does this kid hate me? Why is this kid mad at me? And we try not to take it personally, but we're humans too. And then the reverse, sometimes we come in and we have a bad day and we don't mean to take it out on you guys.
I do that. I feel bad.
We're humans and it's not nice, but I think if we model apologies and we model owning our shit, then that's part of it too.
That's true. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, it's really not, it sounds terrible, but it's not my problem anymore. Once you're not my student anymore, I can't be responsible for you. And if you are unhappy because you're not taking care of yourself, that stays with you, though. You have to live through that.
And you can't control a lot of things in your life, like all the family drama that you have. You have no control over what classes you're in. You have no control over who you're sitting next to sometimes. It's like, what can you control? I can make myself breakfast. I can drink enough water. I can go for a run or a walk after school. I can talk to the friends that are helpful and healthy. I can cut off the ones that aren't. I can do
Mm.
my homework. Do all the things that you can do and then ask for help. And there's there's always a teacher to help you. If you feel like you have nobody else in your life, which you do, like sometimes you're ignoring the people that are there to help you. So don't feel like, oh, I'm all alone. Like Miss Choi said, everybody's faking it. So reach on out.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Okay, well, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. I feel like this was a very educational episode, and I hope that some of the stuff we had to say, it might not apply 100% to everybody, but I hope there's at least a few things that you can take away from here and go, "Hmm, all right, sounds good to me." So that is going to wrap up episode 2 of the Choecast. Please wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Don't lick toilet seats, because I've seen that that's a meme now apparently. Because it's called the coronavirus challenge. Don't do that. I
That is
will
not self-care.
I will materialize inside your house as an angry ghost and smack you if you do that.
And
Okay,
then
keep it.
suck
No.
you down the toilet.
Perfect. I love it. See, this is why we work together so well. All right, so everybody, please be safe, please be happy. I love you all very much, and I will see you next time.